Here we are again.
Yes.
We had a good episode today.
Okay.
We're going to cover Ye. We're going to cover Elon Musk and Twitter. We're also going to cover the Hunter Biden stuff and election interference. And we're also going to cover free speech and what does the Bible have to say about all this.
Wow.
Yep.
You know, I'm constantly amazed. We're never at a loss for something to talk about because there's something going on every single day.
I know.
Yep. See, right now they're calling us to tell us about something else that's going on.
And there's so much to talk about. You almost don't have enough time to fit it all during the time that we want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're trying to give you the bite-sized portions now.
We'll try to keep it to the bite size. Yeah.
All right. So Kanye West, Ye, who has had he said some really good things recently with, in my opinion, wearing the White Lives Matter shirt and kind of breaking the matrix. Right. And saying how he stands against abortion and how he follows God and Jesus. Love it. Then he starts hanging out with the wrong people. Starts hanging out with a dweeb called Nick Fuentes. And they go on the Alex Jones show. And Ye basically says stuff in that he loves Nazis and that he loves Hitler and that the Nazis have done really good stuff, and he says other anti-Semite things. Kevin Sorbo said, I don't agree with what Ye said, but I agree with his right to say it. It's kind of like that Rush Hour scene when Chris Tucker's talking to Jackie Chan.
Not being able to speak is not the same as not speaking. You seem as if you like to talk. I like to let people talk who like to talk. It makes it easier to find out how full of they are. What the hell did you just say?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the same way with this. If you'd allow free speech, you just allow people to talk, you'll eventually find out if they're a real deal or if at the time they're acting like an idiot.
Right.
This is one of those instances.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the problem with the way things are being handled many times today is people make those decisions before the person has even spoken.
Yeah.
A lot of times based on who the person is, what's their political affiliation, what's their worldview like. And the problem with that, as we've talked about, is if the people who are in power can control what you hear, you don't make your own decisions. They make the decisions for you, right, because that's the only information that you get.
Right.
If they have a point of view that you like, you may say, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
But the day's going to come when somebody's going to be in power that you're not going to like.
Yeah.
And when they do the same thing to you, it's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy about it. In fact, I believe the day's going to come when somebody's going to be in power that anything that you even think that's different than what they are presenting will put a death penalty on you.
Agreed.
We're fortunate. In this country, our founding fathers put in the First Ammendment, you have the right to say whatever you want to say. Doesn't mean people have to listen to you. Doesn't mean people have to believe you, but you have the right to say it, and no one has the right to stop you from saying it. Now, years ago, we got all this stuff about hate speech. This is hate speech. This is hate. Hate speech is only controlled by the people who are in power. Whatever they don't want, they label hate speech. Again, if that power ever changes, and the day's going to come when it will change, we know that from the Bible, the guy who's in charge is going to tell you what hate speech is and what it isn't. And if you don't like it, the penalties are going to be really, really stiff.
The free speech, obviously you can say what you want. You also have consequences to what you say. However, you should still be able to say what you want.
Right. Nobody has to agree with you. In fact,
exactly.
people can come out and say, you said this and this and this, and here's what's wrong with that.
And that's the beauty of it. Let me play some stuff of what
Sure.
you said.
Table, especially Hitler. This is the future president you're talking to right now. I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis. Germans had a really cool leader at one time. Love you, love you, love you. There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler.
Well, I think Hitler did target and kill some people. So I think,
I think Obama killed Palestinians.
This is a new look for you.
Oh no, I've been wearing a mask for a while. Yeah. Hey guys, could you not talk in the back? I'm like really hypersensitive to sound. If you guys want to talk, just go in the other room, please. Shut the.
I watched about 15 minutes of the actual live interview, and I turned it off we read in the scripture today, this morning, First Timothy 1 talks about, Paul tells Timothy basically, hey, you shouldn't, endless genealogies, myths, anything that doesn't lend to like faith and true love, don't even listen to. And in verse 6, he says, some people have strayed away from these things and have turned aside to fruitless discussion. Right. Wanting to be teachers of the law, even though they do not understand either what they are saying or the matters about which they make confident assertions. And I think that describes that interview perfectly. There was a time in the interview where I was watching where Ye and Fuentes basically said, we're the teachers. We're the one putting everything on the line for you guys. And you guys basically need to listen to us. And it's like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
You know, people ask me frequently, well, do you want people to say this and that and this and that? And I say, you know, I don't have to like what anybody says, but I want them to be able to say it. And there's a couple of things that happen when you allow them to say it. First of all, you can put that in your information bank and balance it against all the other things that you know about that particular subject.
Yep.
And you can make a decision whether what they've said is really valid or it's not valid. And if it's not valid, it shows you something about that person. For example, there's a person who said, I'm trading in my car because Elon Musk is a racist and a hater and a terrible person. I'm trading in the car and I'm getting another kind of car. I'm getting a Volkswagen because implying that Volkswagens are really wholesome. And,
that was Alyssa Milano.
And anybody who has a Volkswagen has got to be a good person. Obviously, she doesn't know the history of Volkswagen.
No, because it was started by Hitler.
And you ever seen the symbol for Volkswagen?
Yeah, it's like
they take that symbol, and if they spin it real fast, you know what it produces?
What?
A swastika.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you can find it online. The VW, with the V over the W, the way it's placed, if you spin that real fast, it's a swastika.
I had no idea.
And
joke's on you, Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, when you're talking about people who are hateful, and you're going to buy a Volkswagen because it's so clean and wholesome and it has nothing attached to it that's evil, what it shows is you really don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you let people say whatever they want to say, you have a basis for evaluating because you know something about it already. And you may go, hey, that's really right, or you may go, hey, that's really wrong, and here's why. But it also reveals something about the person. Did they do any research on it, or is this just an emotional response?
Yeah. Also, one more thing about Hitler.
Yeah.
Saying for Ye to say like, oh, he did some good things too, and I love what he did, minus the Holocaust. It's like, it'd be kind of like saying of the Antichrist, well, he was a great humanitarian.
Well,
he's a great human being. Look at all the good he did here. And it's like, no, there's a reason why the Bible calls him the son of perdition.
That's it.
The man of lawlessness, the guy who's destined for damnation.
Yeah.
It's like, no, when Scripture calls us evil, calls certain people evil, all of us are evil. But if you don't come to Jesus, you remain evil.
That's right.
And it's like, when Scripture and the Lord places that label on people, this is truth. And Hitler was a vile, evil, demonic human being,
but
just like Margaret Sanger.
Yes, he was, and demented.
Yeah,
I think, but that's, you can debate that whether he was demented or not.
Yeah,
but I'm constantly amazed about people who say things like, Hitler was a vegetarian.
I don't think we'll get into that on this episode.
And the implication obviously is that that's something that's good because vegetarianism is good. And Hitler liked dogs.
Yeah. And Hitler breathed air.
Yes, he did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can say whatever you want to say about people, and as long as there is a free flow of information, you can discover whether all the things you can find out about Hitler, you can make your own decision whether he was a great guy or a really bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, the information is there if it's free to get.
Exactly.
But if somebody's hiding it, then you only hear one side, and you might say, what a wonderful guy. You know, they used to say about Mussolini, who was a terrible guy as well. terrible. Had his relatives killed and so on. But he used to say, well, he made the trains run on time. If that's the best thing you can say about somebody, then you're pretty limited in your understanding about them.
Yeah. I want to read this, and then what you brought up brings us to our next headline.
Oh, okay.
David Ramsey, who was a patriot in 1794, was giving a speech.
1794, okay.
And he was comparing the freedoms that we have here, freedom of speech in America. And he basically said, the liberty of the press is enjoyed in these states in a manner that is unknown in other countries. Each citizen thinks what he pleases and speaks and writes what he thinks. And Washington is in the audience, and he says, pardon me, illustrious Washington, that I have inwardly rejoiced on seeing thy much respected name abused in our papers. Slander against thy adamantium character as pure and impenetrable as polished diamond, are as harmless as pointless arrows shot from broken bows, but they prove that our printing presses are free.
See, that's a man who really understood the Constitution and freedom of speech, so that he says, even though they print terrible things about you, which are going to be obviously untrue to anybody who knows much about you, they have the freedom to do that because nobody is going to restrict them from saying that. Mm-hmm. And the problem with media today and big tech, in most cases, although Twitter is becoming the exception,
under Elon Musk
is that they're only presenting one point of view about everything, and that there's an agenda behind that point of view. And that's not what freedom of speech is. Freedom of speech is, in the public forum, everybody can say and write whatever they want. Freedom of speech is in the public forum. Whatever is the public forum, you can say whatever you want to say in the public forum.
Right.
But if it's a public forum, then I get to say whatever I want to say. Now, there are some forums that are not public. They're very limited.
Right.
But anything that says we're a public forum and does not do that is lying.
Well, the fact that Twitter's so big now that it has a huge implication. I mean, you reach more people with a tweet than you do with the media at night.
Yep.
And so if you're going to censor stuff on Twitter, that's going to have huge implications because people react out of what they know.
Especially since Twitter claims to be an open forum and even has a protection by law as an open forum.
Well, under Elon Musk's leadership, Twitter's really turned direction. Now, Elon Musk is another character where you don't have to agree with everything he does, right? However, I don't agree with his Neuralink stuff, but the way he's running Twitter, I love it. He said today, basically, that he's going to expose Twitter's involvement in censoring the Hunter Biden story.
Hiding the Hunter Biden story, his laptop stories.
Yep, exactly. Let me read some tweets to you because they get really interesting.
Okay.
I know we had
he's going through the Twitter archives and inter-company communications to see when Twitter said, we're not going to tell this story and we're not going to allow others to tell the story through Twitter about Hunter Biden and things that were found on the laptop that he left and never retrieved, even though he was contacted to retrieve it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was so bad that when it first came out, if you shared anything about the story, you were instantly deplatformed and suspended from your account. For instance, also, if you messaged it, direct messaged on Twitter, which is private between you and the person you're sending it to, they would stop you from sharing it. And that's only reserved for child pornography.
Well, yeah. Out of the two, I would say definitely child pornography. But the other one is just plain politically motivated censorship.
Exactly. Well, the White House press secretary was locked out. Project Veritas was locked out. But what's interesting is, let's look here. Here you go. So by 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write another, hey, here's more to review from the Biden team. And the reply would come back, we handled it. So they would post and say, here's the link to the Twitter that you guys need to review from the Biden administration, saying, hey, this person, we don't like them, what they're saying, review this please. And Twitter would basically, yeah, handle these. Now, celebrities also could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. For instance, there's one here, the real James Woods. You know James Woods?
I know James Woods.
Yeah.
I know of him.
He's a big conservative.
Yeah.
The voice of Hades and Hercules and all that. Great actor. He was one of the ones that was being censored by the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
So the DNC said to Twitter, hey, we want you to censor James Woods. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, the system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. There were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left, well, the Democrats than the right. And then he posts a picture that basically money was given, at least if I'm reading this correctly, money was given to Twitter to basically say, this is our contributions of the party to the recipient to remove any headlines or remove what we want. And in 2022, $165,000 was given. 99% of it was Democrat. $451 were only Republican. In 2021, there was a total of Democrats gave $909,000. Republicans gave $14,000. In 2018, Democrats gave $295,000 and Republicans gave $11,000. Very overwhelmingly majority left.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what the money was given for. That's what that chart doesn't explain to me what the money was for. But it's obvious that the Democrats gave far more.
So it's based on contacts. So it looks like we'd be able to bribe you and give you money if, you remove this thing. I don't know.
I don't know. My sense is that things are removed not for money necessarily, but for a political view or standing on a social issue or something like that. And again, if Twitter, I'm so pleased with Musk because he is putting on people whose things I don't agree with in every case, but he's saying, look, we're a public forum. We were established to give everybody an open communication to say whatever they wanted to say, and people can lock on it, or people can ignore it, or people can respond to it, but it's got to be open. So he's opening it to people who were knocked off before, and some people who I think maybe shouldn't be open to. Personally, I don't care about their stuff, but I do care that they have the opportunity to say what they want to say in an open forum.
Well, this right here describes the internal policies of Twitter. Matt Taibbi, who basically Elon retweeted and posting all this. The First Amendment isn't absolute. Sasbo's letter containing chilling passages relaying Democratic lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation, and as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. Let me read this to you.
The Bill of Rights is not absolute?
Yeah. Can I read this to you first?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Before I blow up.
Yes,
go
please. The Democrats, meanwhile, complain that the companies are inept. They let conservatives muddy the waters and make the Biden campaign look corrupt, even though Biden is innocent. They link this to Hillary Clinton's email scandal. She did nothing wrong, but because the press wouldn't let the story go, it became a scandal far out of proportion. In their mind, social media is doing the same thing. It doesn't moderate enough harmful content, so when it does, like it did yesterday, it becomes a story. If the companies moderated more, conservatives wouldn't even think to use social media for disinformation, misinformation, or otherwise. The Democrats were in agreement. Social media needs to moderate more because they're corrupting democracy and making all truth relative. When pushed on how the government might insist on that, consistent with the First Amendment, they demurred the First Amendment isn't absolute. Now, hold on, before we say anything, because I know you're about to blow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether these scandals were true or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Obviously, if they're not true, we have laws in place, libel and slander, okay, where you can be held accountable. But whether they're true or not is not the issue here. The issue is, do you have freedom of speech? Do you have the First Amendment? Because if you start saying you cannot speak and you're totally banned, whether or not you're saying stuff that's right or wrong, then once you can do that to somebody, then you can do that to everybody else.
You can do it to everybody. And yes, well, you're right. I get exercised about this because the freedoms that we have in this country, if people want to take those away to further their own agenda, which I will be blunt, the Democrats do more than the Republicans. The Democrats don't want you to hear anything except what they want you to hear. And they will lie. Let me give you a good example. Hillary Clinton, with her server at home having classified information on it.
Yeah.
I had a secret clearance from the Department of Defense. If I had revealed some of the things that I knew in a public server, I would go to prison for it. Hillary Clinton had things far more sensitive and far more explosive than I ever knew.
And for those of you who don't know, Grandpa did a movie, a POW movie for the Department of Defense.
I did about 26 projects for the Department of Defense. But yeah, anyway, the point is, I didn't even have a top secret. I just had a secret clearance.
Yeah.
But if I violated the security of the information that I had, I was told, hey, if you violate this, you're going to federal prison.
Yeah.
Just know that at the beginning. Hillary Clinton violated way beyond that.
Yep. Yeah.
I was warned way ahead of time. With your clearance, you're going to be in possession of information. And if you divulge that information or make that information accessible in any way, you are going to prison for it. Hillary Clinton's violation of that was way, way beyond what mine was. But because of political connections and all the other stuff, she got a pass. She got the FBI said, oh, it didn't rise to the level.
Yeah.
It was way beyond the level that would have sent me to prison.
Yeah.
So
rules for thee, but not for me.
That's it. And that's what's wrong with the media and social media today. And that's why I'm so thankful that Musk is really making it what it pretends to be, which is an open place for people to exchange ideas in freedom. And those who want to get rid of the Constitution, your day will come. There's a guy coming who's going to get rid of the Constitution. And guess what, guys? You are not going to like it a bit.
Yeah.
Because if you think things are bad now, you got no clue. In fact, Jesus himself said, if God did not limit the number of days that this is happening, there would be no life left on this planet.
Yes.
So you got something to look forward to if you're in favor of getting rid of the Constitution and changing the laws.
Well, if you're in favor of getting rid of the Constitution and changing the laws, there are multiple other countries you can choose of that don't have our Constitution.
That's right.
And nobody's stopping you.
That's right.
So, I mean, America's the only place where people who hate it refuse to leave. And people from other countries are dying to get in here.
They are, because we're such a terrible place. They want to come here, yes.
So, with all that said, your right to the First Amendment, if you don't have the First Amendment, you don't have any of the rights. Well, actually, the Second Amendment holds everything else together. Right. Because if you look at China's zero COVID policy, it's terrible what's happening there because they don't have guns, so they can't defend themselves. But your right to the First Amendment is hugely important. And anyone who tries to label anything as hate speech or hate crime, like the murder was a hate crime, well, guess what? all murder is a hate crime.
That's right.
Because Jesus says, if you love your brother, you won't murder them.
That's it.
So we would do better in going back to the Lord. And so you don't have to agree with what everybody says, but you should fight for the right to say it, because it means the press is free. It means you're free to be able to say that also.
It means that the day is coming when you too will be able to say what you want to say about whatever subject.
Exactly. And what I like about David Ramsey, tying it all together, is he basically said, look, the press tried to defame George Washington, and it was kind of like them shooting arrows at a diamond. They would just bounce off. It didn't do anything.
Right.
But the fact that they were able to do that,
he rejoiced because it meant they were free.
Exactly. But the First Amendment, when that happens, it means you have leaders and other people in the country who trust you to make the right decisions.
Yes.
It's kind of like my parents. My parents were not very controlling. They did have standards. They did have laws. They did have things for us to follow. But they raised us in a way to want to follow those laws, want to honor them, want to honor the Lord, so that they didn't have to control every aspect of our lives, because they trusted us.
That's right.
Me and my sister. If you don't trust somebody, you have more control over them. If you do trust people, though, you have less control.
Right. And the trust has to come. Trust, it doesn't automatically occur.
Right.
Trust has to be built. So there had to be some things on a much lower level where they trusted you and you fulfilled that trust. And then on a little higher level, you fulfilled the trust until they had real trust in you, because trust grows.
And it's a different example, but going back to America, what built that trust is the Constitution. Yes. Our leaders have no right in taking our rights away like that, because our rights come from God and not government. But we have to finish up this episode.
Oh, yes.
Or else we're going to go on forever.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So, if you like this episode, please like this video on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Free to do so. You can always unsubscribe later if you want. But we would love for you to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. And then we're also on Twitter. And God bless Elon Musk. Pray he comes to Jesus. And Grandpa?
Yes.
We're signing off.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yep. See you next time.
Bye-bye.